In June 2023, a shocking tragedy took place in Cleveland, Ohio. A 31-year-old woman named Crystal Candelario decided to go on a vacation. She traveled to Detroit and later to Puerto Rico for a trip that would last about 10 days. But there was one major problem. Her 16-month-old daughter, Jallen, was left behind. According to investigators, Crystal left the toddler alone in their apartment before leaving on her trip. Jallen was placed in a playpen and had no one there to care for her. At just 16 months old, she was completely dependent on an adult for food, water, and safety. While Jallen was alone, Crystal continued her vacation. 10 days later, on June 16th, Crystal returned home and called 911, reporting that her daughter was unresponsive. When emergency responders arrived, they found that Jallen had died. The medical examiner later determined that the cause of death was severe dehydration and starvation. Police launched an investigation and quickly discovered that Crystal had been away the entire time. Travel records and other evidence confirmed that she had left her daughter alone while she went on vacation. The case shocked the country and sparked widespread outrage. In February 2024, Crystal Candelario pleaded guilty to aggravated murder and child endangerment. 1 month later, she was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Grace Millane was a 22-year-old British university graduate who was traveling the world during a gap year. In late 2018, she arrived in Auckland while visiting New Zealand. On December 1st, 2018, the eve of her 22nd birthday, she went on a Tinder date with a local man, Jesse Kempson. CCTV footage showed the pair spending the evening together before entering his hotel. When Grace failed to contact her family on her birthday, they became concerned. After several days without communication, she was reported missing. Police eventually discovered that she had been killed by strangulation, and her body was later found buried in the nearby Waitakere Ranges. During his trial, Kempson claimed that Grace had died accidentally during consensual, rough intercourse. However, forensic evidence showed she had been subjected to prolonged manual pressure to the neck, requiring significant force and lasting several minutes. The prosecution argued that she had been murdered, and that Kempson's actions afterward, including attempts to conceal the crime, demonstrated guilt. In November 2019, a jury found Kempson guilty of murder. He was later sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum non-parole period of 17 years. His appeals against the conviction and sentence were unsuccessful. The case received international attention because of its brutality, the use of a rough intercourse defense, and concerns about violence against women. It also deeply affected New Zealand, prompting a public apology from then Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, who said Grace should have been safe while visiting the country.
Woo In-hee was one of North Korea's most famous actresses during the 1970s. She starred in several popular films and became a household name across the country. Her beauty, talent, and fame eventually brought her into the inner circle of North Korea's elite, where she reportedly began a secret relationship with future leader Kim Jong-il. For years, Woo enjoyed a life that few North Koreans could imagine. She was one of the country's biggest stars and had direct access to some of the most powerful people in the nation. But in a dictatorship, even the most privileged people can fall from favor overnight. According to reports from defectors and researchers, Woo later became involved with another man and was accused of discussing details of her relationship with Kim Jong-il. Whether the accusations were true remains unclear, but they were enough to put her in danger. In 1981, Woo was arrested by North Korean authorities. She was reportedly taken to a military training ground near Pyongyang, where thousands of people were gathered to witness her execution. Accounts claim that she was executed by firing squad and that her husband was forced to watch. After her death, the regime allegedly worked to erase her from public memory. References to her were removed from publications, and her name largely disappeared from official records. One of North Korea's brightest stars had effectively been wiped from history. Because North Korea is so secretive, some details of Woo In-hee's story cannot be independently verified. However, her case is often cited as a chilling example of how fame and privilege offered little protection under one of the world's most authoritarian governments. Larry was a 25-year-old man living in Council Bluffs, Iowa. On November 28, 2009, shortly after Thanksgiving, his family noticed something was wrong. According to his parents, Larry had been acting irrationally and appeared to be suffering from hallucinations. He reportedly believed voices were speaking to him and became increasingly distressed. That evening, during a blizzard, he He suddenly ran out of the house barefoot, wearing only a hoodie and sweatpants. It would be the last time his family ever saw him alive. Police launched a missing person investigation, and Larry's family spent years searching for answers. Flyers were distributed, tips were followed up on, and investigators explored numerous possibilities, but no trace of Larry could be found. As the years passed, the case slowly went cold. His family was left wondering whether he had left town, been harmed, or simply vanished without a trace. Then, nearly 10 years later, an unbelievable discovery was made. In January 2019, contractors were dismantling refrigeration units inside an abandoned no-frills supermarket in Council Bluffs. The store had closed several years earlier, and workers were removing old shelving and coolers when they discovered human remains hidden behind one of the massive refrigerator units. DNA testing eventually confirmed the remains belonged to Larry. Investigators pieced together what likely happened. Larry had previously worked at the supermarket, and former employees explained that workers often climbed onto the tops of the large coolers to store items or take unofficial breaks. Authorities believe Larry entered the store after leaving home, climbed onto one of the refrigeration units, and accidentally fell into a narrow 18-inch gap between the cooler and the wall. Once trapped, he was unable to escape.
Anissa Jones was born on March 11, 1958, and became famous at just 8 years old when she was cast as Buffy Davis on the hit TV show Family Affair. Millions of viewers adored her character, a sweet little girl known for carrying her doll, Mrs. Beasley. During the late 1960s, Anissa was one of the most recognizable child stars in America, but fame came with a cost. While the show was a huge success, Anissa struggled with the pressures of being a child celebrity. When Family Affair ended in 1971, she was only 12 years old. Like many former child actors, she found it difficult to transition into adult roles. Acting opportunities dried up, and she was suddenly trying to build a normal life after years in the spotlight. As she entered her teenage years, Anissa became increasingly involved in the Southern California party scene. Friends and family later described a young woman searching for independence while dealing with the emotional fallout of childhood fame. Then, in August 1976, tragedy struck. After attending a party in Oceanside, California, Anissa was found unresponsive in a bedroom the following morning. She was only 18 years old. The coroner determined that she had died from an accidental drug overdose involving multiple substances. Her death shocked fans across the country who still remembered her as the cheerful little Buffy from television.